Well, it's 2 p.m. here in the Boston area. And as usual, we come to you with the assembly from the diaspora. I always say the diaspora is not an escape. We are still deeply connected with our dear country, Ghana. So today, we're going to talk about the NDC's vision of reset. And we are lucky to have the eloquent, erudite, the man who I've observed over the years speak sentimentally, passionately, and with conviction on all matters related to the well-being of Ghana. The Director of Legal Affairs of the NDC, Godwin Edudzi Tamakloe. Council, we are happy to have you here. We are very fortunate. You're welcome.
Thank you. What shall I say? Whether good afternoon or good evening. Yeah, as you are aware, it's 7:04 in Ghana.
Yeah.
And like you rightly pointed out, it's about 2 p.m. in Boston. I want to say a good evening, good afternoon to all the people who have joined us this evening. We're going to have absolutely an insightful conversation, the perspective of the National Democratic Congress, why there's the need, as it were, for a reset.
Okay.
We have no doubt at all in our mind that where the country had got into now, we can't continue with this trajectory.
Okay.
If not, we won't have a Republic of Ghana. And
All
so
right.
there's arguably the need for a reset.
Okay. All right. So, well, normally they say numbers don't lie, but embedded within numbers are certain nuances that need to be unpacked.
Very well.
And so, yes. And to aid us do so, I have my friend here, Alfred Appiah, who seemed to be on a marathon today. Earlier today, he was on TV3, delivering the goods over there. So we are fortunate to have him. There's going to be a dimension of this conversation that would require us to look deep into the numbers and tell Ghanaians what the reality is. So, Alfred, you're welcome.
Thanks, Agana. Happy to be here.
All right. So, Edudzi, I mean, I guess you already began, but could you tell us what the reset is all about?
Okay, so thank you so much. As you are aware, in 2016, the New Patriotic Party campaigned on the theme Arise for Change. Now, the belief among many Ghanaians is that a conversation bordering on change will result in a direction where this country will be going from, as somebody would say, prosperity to prosperity to prosperity, from job creation to job creation to job creation. The governance institutions will be placed in a position that preserve democratic values of rule of law, respect for human rights, respect for media freedom, among other things. Now, like I always say, if you send your child to school, at the end of the day, the child comes home with what I call terminal reports. That terminal report will show the scorecard of the child. Now, as a parent, if you are not interested in knowing how your child is performing in school, then you are not acting properly as a parent. So now let's put the situation where we Ghanaians are the parents, the people we have voted for, that's leadership, and here the president and the NPP constitute, say, the child.
Okay.
8 years, we expect that the child will produce a certain scorecard. Now we can broadly look at what the scorecard today is. And if you have this scorecard, question you need to ask yourself is that this scorecard, does it require an upgrade or a reset?
Yeah.
That's the fundamental question.
Yeah.
So for me, as a lawyer, when I have a case, I develop a case theory. I identify what the problem in the case is and what solutions I need to proper and the way forward. Now you've asked why the need for a research. See, as of 2016, on the economy alone, we have, and thankfully we have the data person with us.
Yeah.
We had an unemployment rate of 8%. We had a situation where you needed 4 Ghana cedis to exchange for $1. You needed 15% interest rates. Those were the numbers that were described as terrible and incompetent scorecard. So now, if this represents incompetence, what I just listed,
Yeah.
then after 8 years, you expect a better performance. What is the scorecard today? By 2022 September, the inflation rate was 54%. In fact, as of 2020-2023, our inflation rate was the 3rd worst in Africa south of the Sahara, with the exception of Sudan and Zimbabwe.
Yeah.
We were competing with Zimbabwe and South Sudan in the worst inflationary rate. Today, the inflation had come back to 22, which is still worse compared to the 15% in 2016. Today, unemployment rate is in the region of 15%. In fact, it's 14.8% from 8% in 2016. Today, if you're a businessman, and I want to talk to the Ghanaian in the diaspora.
Okay.
My brother Agana, look at it carefully.
Yeah.
In 2016, if you're a businessman and you had 1 million Ghana cedis, it translated into $250,000.
Okay.
$250,000 if you had 1 million Ghana cedis. So with that 1 million, you are able to bring either broniwawu, used clothing, spare parts, or any item you want to sell, $250,000 worth of that item or merchandise. Now, do you know that today, by reason of the incompetent management of the exchange rate, that same 1 million Ghana cedi now gives you $70,000.
Wow.
From $250,000 to $70,000. Now tell me if this requires an upgrade. We can continue on this path.
Okay.
Anybody that says that we should continue on this path is either being reckless or completely detached from reality. So you can't upgrade this. There is nothing to upgrade about it. And look, I remember vividly what Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia used to say in his lectures at Central University. You recall those lectures? The Distinguished Lecture Series.
Yeah.
What he used to say is that when in doubt, observe the exchange
rate.
Today, we are in doubt. So we want to observe the exchange rate. Parity of reasoning. By this parity of reasoning, the exchange rate today had moved from 4 cedis to a dollar to 17.2 cedis to a dollar.
Okay.
You can't continue on this path. No. But you see, Mr. Ghana, the question you need to ask yourself is, how did we get here?
Okay. Yeah. How did we get here?
How did we get here?
Well, is it not Russia, Ukraine, COVID?
I'll deal with that in a minute. If you recall, in 2019, the government set up a 40-member committee to help investigate the depreciation of the cedi and fix it. You recall?
Yeah.
2019, was there COVID?
No.
So how then do you blame the current challenge on COVID?
Okay.
Because the problem started before COVID, with the greatest respect to our viewers. Now, if you have underlying health conditions and something triggers it, what caused the problem? Is it the trigger or the underlying condition?
Well, it's a trigger.
Good. Because in this case, you already had the underlying health conditions. So when the trigger came and exposed the underlying conditions.
Okay.
So when Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, Ken Ofori-Atta took over the management of this economy, they came with one mindset: borrowing. Now you recall that Bawumia used to say that we can't borrow ourselves out of poverty.
Yeah, exactly.
That was his word. Now you know what they did? In April 2017, they approached the American company called Franklin Templeton. Franklin Templeton gave them bonds totaling $2.25 billion. $2.25 billion.
Okay.
What they did with that amount is to give it an artificial stability for the cedi. So the cedi was effectively put on performance enhancing drug. Agana, you appreciate the drug called nandrolone. So the cedi was put on nandrolone. Now, when you put an entity on performance enhancing drug, you must sustain it. Because once the drug loses its efficacy, there will be a relapse. So in this particular instance, we had put the Ghana cedi on performance enhancing drug. And that is, annually, we were doing no less than $2 billion of Eurobond borrowing. Okay. So I want to draw your attention, and thankfully the data person is here. By 2021, the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration had done in Eurobond alone $11 billion. Unprecedented. Okay. Now, if you add the 2017 Franklin Templeton bond of 2.25, that's $13 billion in Eurobond receipts. Do you know that in 8 years, the Mills Mahama Emisata administration only did $3.5 billion of Eurobond in 8 years? In the space of 5 years only, this administration had done $11 billion of Eurobond plus $2.25 billion from Franklin Templeton, making it 13 billion. Now, when you borrow in the space of 5 years, $13 billion in Eurobond alone, I've not even brought the commercial loans. I've not even brought it into the conversation. Only Eurobond, 13 billion. How are you going to sustain your debt? So that moved the economy into a debt default. Okay. So by close of 2023, our debt to GDP ratio was almost 104%. Now, what are the major sources of your foreign exchange? Cocoa, gold,
Gold, yeah.
timber, oil. If you put all these resources together, you can't still pay your debt. You can't.
So where do you think the money went to? I mean,
So, in fact, that's a very beautiful conversation.
yeah.
Now, listen. Aside these borrowed funds, I want us to do another analysis
Okay.
of how much we have generated domestically. Because the domestic revenue generation is important to situate the conversation well.
Okay.
Last year alone, total revenue generated and disclosed by GRA. In fact, you can Google it on graphic.com. Graphic Online, sorry, CTFM and Co. GRA generated 113 billion Ghana cedis last year alone.
Okay.
So, in the space of 7 years, total revenue generated for this government, I mean, domestic revenue mobilization is in excess of 400 billion Ghana cedis. So, as far as this government is concerned, money has really not been a problem. $13 billion of bonds, 400 billion Ghana cedis of domestic revenue. And when I say domestic revenue, as in revenue generated by GRA.
Yeah.
Then, if you add commercial borrowings, this government had gotten no less than 900 billion Ghana cedis in 7 years.
Wow.
Now, 900 billion Ghana cedis.
Wow.
Now, do you know the shocking part? For the entire 8 years of Mills Mahama Ebisatha, the total envelope of financial resource available to them was 248 billion Ghana cedis in 8 years. This includes Eurobond, includes total revenue generated. If you put everything together, it's 248 billion.
Versus 900 billion.
Versus 900 billion. So I want you to see what we are dealing with.
Okay.
So how come that the person who got
I think sometimes it's difficult for us to appreciate the skills, right?
That's why I'm putting it this way for you.
Yes. Okay.
So in 8 years, one person got 248 billion Ghana cedis. In 7 years, another person had gotten 900 billion. Now do the mathematics.
Okay.
When you were in the University of Ghana, you recall the motto of Legon Hall: to whom much is given, much is expected.
I was a vandal, so you know.
Oh no, but you see, before you go to the city, you pass in front of Legon Hall.
The city is superior, so you know we don't look at other places.
You know, as for the city, we were all, there. Some of us were doing TV room and M Plaza. You remember? You remember M Plaza?
Oh yeah, M Plaza. Yeah, of course.
Exactly. Don't tell anybody who had never been to the city what M Plaza means. Those days we had to wait TV room when everybody is gone, even to get a place to sleep.
Anyway,
yes. So basically, I just want you to appreciate the envelope of financial resources that the respective administrations have gotten. 900 billion Ghana cedis, 248 billion Ghana cedis. Now, I have heard persons associated with this government, the hype men, say that this administration have done 12,000 kilometers of road. I hope you've also heard it.
Yeah.
Now, 12,000 kilometers of road means from Ghana to Nebraska.
Yeah.
My brother.
Yeah, that's
The hype men of this government are telling us
Mm.
that Akufo-Addo had constructed so much road that the roads he had constructed put together is like from Ghana to Nebraska.
Wow.
Barefaced lies.
Mm.
But you see, you've asked a very fundamental question. You asked, now, Sikano Wahi,
Yeah.
where is the money? What has the money been used for? Inflated projects. Through the instrument of sole sourcing.
Mm.
Recently, the Auditor General, not Domelebo, the Auditor General appointed by Mr. Akufo-Addo himself, decided to do a special audit on cocoa roads.
Okay.
Now, the audit finding is quite interesting. What does it say? The audit finding suggests that a lot of the road projects undertaken by Cocoa Board under the Cocoa Road project, 87% were done through sole sourcing.
Okay.
Do you get it? 87% were done through sole sourcing.
Okay.
So, and the Auditor General in his findings said, look, the more competitive process it is, the less expensive the roads were. And that it was cheaper constructing the roads using competitive process compared to sole sourcing and restricted tendering. Why would anybody want to do 87% of road projects using sole sourcing? From the Auditor General, it is expensive. It leads to inflation of the cost of the project. Why would anybody want to? 87%. That is where the money is going to.
Okay.
Now, you see, when you ask proponents of this government, they say, oh, we spend the money on free SHS. Today, I want to demystify that lie completely. Mr. Ghana, you know, Ghana started commercial production of oil around 2010.
Yeah.
From 2010 to 2024 today, right?
Yeah.
That's about 14 years.
Okay.
Of these 14 years, if you put the revenue we have generated from crude oil, 65% of the revenue accruing out of crude oil, 65% had come to Akufo-Addo and Bawumia only. And this thing finds expression in the PIAC report. The Public Interest and Accountability Committee, its report is there, uncontested. In fact, nobody can challenge. 65% of the revenue accruing from oil had come to the Akufo-Addo Bawumia administration only.
Only.
Because by 2016, when John Mahama was leaving, he left 2 additional oil fields. You know. And that's additional revenue, which never accrued to John Mahama or Mills. So what this government has done is to say that, oh, we've used the money for free SHS. Now let's do the mathematics.
Okay.
Free SHS started September 2017. And this thing that I say, you can challenge me. I am open to that challenge. That's what I do for a living as a lawyer. Yes. Free SHS, the cost of free SHS from September 2017 to date is not even up to 15 billion Ghana cedis.
Okay.
It's not up to 15 billion Ghana cedis. And of this amount, you look for what we call actual releases. So when the budget is read, there are actual releases and arrears. Actual releases for free SHS is not up to 8 billion Ghana cedis. So as I speak to you, We have
Yeah.
almost 4 billion Ghana cedis arrears
Okay.
that the new administration would inherit and pay. So it cannot be the case
Yeah.
that free SHS is the cause of the problem.
Okay.
Now you know the curious thing.
Mm-hmm.
You ask yourself, why was it the case that the government was so motivated with the issue of borrowing to the point of doing $13 billion in bonds? Question.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Why?
know that our finance minister, Ken Oforiatta, then
Mm-hmm.
had his own company advising him on how much to borrow
Okay.
and were entitled to commission? So your finance minister was making money
Money
out
from
of
the
the
borrowing.
borrowing. I have
Yep.
never seen a classic situation of the use of public office for private gain like this.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen.
Okay. So, I
Now,
mean, if you would wrap it up here, and then we would,
no, you see,
Yeah.
you raised the issue of COVID-19
Okay.
and its impact. I need to
Yeah.
demystify it.
Okay.
After COVID, government came out and said, look, from their analysis of events, COVID-19 resulted in a revenue shortfall of 14 billion Ghana cedis. And that was the direct impact of COVID-19 on the economy.
Okay.
Let's hold it that it is true. By reason of COVID-19, Bank of Ghana in 2020 gave this government 10 billion Ghana cedis borrowing. 10 billion.
Bank of Ghana.
Bank of Ghana.
Largely from printing.
Exactly.
Okay.
In America, they will call it quantitative easing.
Yeah.
They gave this government 10 billion Ghana cedis. So let's put that aside. Then we approached the IMF and said, no, we are in an emergency situation. We've never seen this in the last 100 years, blah, blah, blah. So, because we're a member state of the IMF, we want to trigger what is known as the rapid credit facility.
Mm-hmm.
That gave us another $1 billion. So if the exchange rate at that time was 6 cedis to a dollar, that's 6 billion.
Yeah, 6 billion Ghana.
Good. Then after the rapid credit facility, we again approached the IMF to do what is known as the special drawing rights of another $1 billion. So that's $2 billion already gives us 12 billion Ghana cedi plus the 10 billion from BOG. That's already 22 billion.
Yeah.
Then the World Bank gave us $600 million. Germany gave us $83 million. South Korea also gave us. Then guess what we did? Close to the election, government said, oh, COVID is unprecedented. So they went into the Petroleum Revenue Management Act. There's something called a stabilization fund.
Yeah.
From Mohammed's time, it has accrued $274 million.
Okay.
So they went in and withdrew $200 million.
Okay.
At the exchange rate of 6, it gave us 1.2 billion Ghana cedis.
Mm-hmm.
So when you put in totality, the amount of money that we got by reason of COVID-19 is almost 30 billion Ghana cedis.
A net gain.
So if you minus the 14 billion in revenue losses against the 30 billion, there's a net gain to government.
Yeah.
But do you know what they did with the COVID money?
No.
Pathetic. The NPP regional vice chairperson for Northern Region She was the NPP parliamentary candidate for the constituency called Sagnarigu.
Yeah.
She's called Felicia Tete.
Mm-hmm.
She got provoked by her party members and decided to spill the beans.
Okay.
I will give you the audio. So you play it to your listeners.
Okay.
So that it doesn't, or your viewers now on this show, so that it doesn't look like it is me, Edudzi, who is fabricating a story or making up stories. Remember that July 7th, 2022, we approached the IMF for a bailout conversation. Conditionalities. The IMF insisted that we needed to do an audit of how we spent COVID funds.
Okay.
So the Auditor General appointed by Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo conducted a said audit. Now, the findings are extremely shocking.
Okay.
Do you know what the Auditor General found? One.
Well, listen, yeah.
One. 500 million Ghana cedis of COVID funds were spent outside GIFMIS.
Outside what?
The GIFMIS system.
Oh, okay.
So the Ministry of Finance has a tracking system. So that system, any expenditure out of government funds is tracked.
It's captured.
On that,
okay.
It's captured.
Yeah.
Government decided to spend 500 million Ghana cedis outside the
outside
GIFMIS.
of that. Okay.
Why would anybody?
So it means it cannot be traced.
It cannot be traced.
Yeah.
Why would anybody spend outside GIFMIS? Agana?
Yeah.
Why would any government?
I mean, it means that there's no accounting for that money, right? So
No,
it could go
the
anywhere.
person wants to steal the money.
Yeah.
Stole it.
Basically, yeah.
Because the GIFMIS system is a system by the finance ministry itself. And it's for accountability. It's for transparency. So if you have access to the GIFMIS system, once you are in Boston, you can track all government expenditures. Today, government is paying 1 million for this project. Government is paying this for this. Government is paying this for this.
So are there no systems of accountability to check that type of behavior? Because I would imagine that they introduced the system to track expenditure, right? So how is it that officials are allowed to spend outside of that infrastructure?
Exactly the point.
Okay.
It's a collusion to steal public funds. And look, we have said, and that is why John Mahama, in the campaign to reset this country, had introduced what we call the ORA, Operation Retrieve or Loot.
Okay.
There is no way there's no way that Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia is going to investigate how this 500 million Ghana cedis was spent outside GIFMIS. I have sent you a video.
Okay.
The audio recording of the MPP regional vice chair for Northern Region, Felicia Tete. I want you to play it to your viewers before I conclude.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can move on to something else, and then if I get it up, then we'll play it.
Very well. Very well.
Yeah. So yes. Okay. So I wanted us to talk about. I mean, you've sort of laid out the problem, and it's evident that our country is in crisis. But I want us to shift to things that impact people on a daily basis, such as employment, right? So, for instance, the recent Afro Barometer survey says that employment is one of the key issues that Ghanaians consider as important going into this election. Recently, Bawumia is claiming that they created 2.6 million jobs. There's a video of him making that statement.
In fact, he repeated it at UPSC.
Okay.
When he did the press briefing at UPSC, he repeated that.
Yeah. So we're going to play the video file. Yeah.
Recently at Kimpiski, we repeated the same thing. So,
okay. Yeah. So we'll play the video.
And then we'll interrogate it.
Exactly. And then Alfred is here. He has data on employment. And then he will unpack it for us.
Perfect.
So, okay.
To go to at least do 2.6 million jobs. It shows.
Take a look.
If in 8 years, with all the challenges, we were able to do 2.6 million jobs, it shows by just plain logic and reason that we will do much more than 2.6 million in the next 8 years. I expect us to go to at least if we proceed on this trajectory for the next 8 years, we should, with all of these different aspects come in, I am looking at us moving to create 4 million jobs in the next 8 years. Today he says there is no link between digitalization and the economy. Right? How can that be in this 4th industrial revolution?
All right. So this morning on the Saturday morning show on TV3, there was a policy person who works at the Ministry of Finance who was questioned about the source of the data source for Baumea's claim. And I want us to hear what he had to say.
Ministry, because you are the finance ministry, this 2.6 million that Dr. Baumea talks about, what's the source of that data?
I cannot exactly tell you where that is coming from. At the end of the day, an economy is made up of many sectors.
No.
And at the end of the day, you have various ministries, departments, and agencies.
Dr. Ghanaian, so Dr. Ghanaian, you first indicate that you cannot tell me the source of that data.
No. When you are asking for a specific source, that would be inappropriate, right? Government of Ghana itself is a source in the sense that you have ministries, departments, and agencies. And at the end of the day, jobs that have been created across the MDAs are what you pull together to provide an indication of how many jobs have been created. And that is what it says. So if you are looking for a published source, for example, that can be problematic. You know, and
that should be easily verifiable, because there must be a published source. For instance, if that specific if there's a specific, I'm coming to a point, Dr. Ghanaian, if there's a specific amount, I'm coming. There's a specific statistic that's put out, 2.6 million. The vice president was consistent and very clear in his words that the last time he checked the data. So he's making reference to a data source that 2.6 million jobs have been created.
He made reference to the data here coming from the various ministries, coming from the various departments, and coming from the various agencies of government. So you cannot have a specific source that you say, this is where I'm taking it from. At the end of the day, government or the whole process of governance is coordinated. So when ministry, departments, and agencies are creating jobs, it all comes to a certain point. And that is basically what the reference is. So whether it is at the level of the Ministry of Employment, for example, that this data can be found, that can easily be the case. But
I see.
You have government institutions across the place that are engaging in the employment of Ghanaians on a daily basis. So at any point in time, you have to be able to collate all of this before you can tell how many jobs have been created over the period. So that's the point I'm making to you.
Okay. So Dr. Baumea met the media on the
All right. So, okay. Edudzi, your initial comments on this, and then we'll go to Alfred, who would help us find
So
this 2.6
Alfred,
million. Yeah.
Alfred, for the purpose of our conversation,
Okay.
he's a policy analyst and a data scientist. He mines the data,
Yes.
okay, and can provide an impartial conversation on the
Okay.
data. But you see,
Okay.
just if you listen to the dialogue, the conversation between Dr. Ghanaian of the Ministry of Finance, and in
Yeah.
fact, he is a technical advisor to our finance minister.
Yeah.
A question is put to him directly. It's like cross-examination. Can you tell this honorable court the source of the data that Bawumia put out there, that 2.6 million jobs have been created? Answer, I cannot tell. What
Okay.
more is there for me to say?
Yeah.
These
All right. So
are,
let's.
look, these are voodoo. You know voodoo?
Yeah. Of course.
Magic.
Yeah.
Magic.
Yeah.
You know, this is like voodoo numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Look, let me tell you. How much government, how many people government of Ghana pays every month? There's data to it. Because controller and accountant general that does the payments, there's data. All government agencies, departments, among others, that pay wages, there's data to it. If you go and look at how much public sector workers, and by public sector workers, I mean the various ministries, the various departments, the various agencies, they are not even up to 1 million people.
Yeah.
So where from the
How about the
2.6?
private sector? He might be implying private sector
No,
jobs.
but you see, the private sector conversation is even bizarre. Do you know what they've done?
Okay.
They went to SNET and asked SNET, how many people have registered their businesses? So first, Registrar General will say, oh, this year, 2,000 people, 500,000 people have come to register their businesses. So immediately they say 500,000 people have come to register their businesses. They'll say 500,000 jobs have been created. What is that?
Yeah. Okay. So let's go to Alfred, and then because we're running out of time now. So Alfred, let's find these 2.6 million jobs.
Sorry, I was trying to get my slides up so I can quickly walk us through.
Okay.
But I think the challenging thing always comes when it comes to our job numbers is politicians try to just throw out numbers, and that's because we've not really had a good consistent source of data. When you look at the world or in the in the developed world, also think about even some of the developing countries like South Africa, some of the other ones. There's a source, right? So one of the ways that you find out about the labor market is to do what is called the labor force surveys, right? And so every month, they do it monthly just to get that. The challenge, of course, in Ghana is we have not had that consistently, and so what happens is these politicians usually would have their own numbers thrown around. But regardless, what we could try to do is we could try to look at other sources, because if you tell us we have 2.6 million jobs created, right, we can try to use other sources to say, okay, have you really created these 2 points? It should tell a similar story, right? These are the sources that we have. We can use that to make different inferences, and it should tell us that. Are my slides showing?
No. Okay. Are you sharing? Is it No.
Like when I go to present. Oh,
Okay.
Oh, sorry, I should have just done share screen. Yeah.
Yeah. Do share screen. Yes.
Yeah. I don't need to. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
It's interesting because it's
So
telling me the screen is sharing.
Yeah. It says it's sharing.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me.
But anyways, I will keep going, and once
Okay.
it comes on the screen, then
Okay. Let's see.
so first of all, there's inconsistencies, right, in these numbers that they've been talking about. So in August, the vice president, like after they launched their manifesto, right, they had talked about 2.3 million jobs. And then the breakdown that was given was there was about 1.5 million in the public sector, and then about 1.4 million in the public sector and about 900,000 in the private sector. This was in August. And then recently at this engagement with the youth, this was like over the weekend, he was talking about now 2.6 million, but the 2.6 million, the breakdown has changed. It's 1.4 million in the private sector, and then 1.2 million in the public sector. So basically that suggests that there has been a decline of jobs created in the public sector, and then there has been an uptick or an uptick in the private sector. But this is such short time frame that doesn't even add up, right? So the sources there's that inconsistency. When you look at the government's performance tracker, it's talking about different numbers. The budget talks about different numbers. So even among themselves, even within the government, right? The numbers are very inconsistent when you look at the jobs that have been created. So there are 5 sources of data that I used here to try to say, can we see a similar story of 2.6 million jobs over the period of the current government? I don't know if my screen is still not showing. I think it's easier to show the screen so people can.
So can you try one more time and see?
Let's see.
Yeah. So when you share the screen, it will ask you to select the screen if you have multiple.
Yeah, no, I selected that because it's showing at the bottom that it's sharing. StreamYard.com is sharing your screen. So So maybe there has to be something, but we will keep going. Yeah. So
all right.
5 data sources. Ghana Statistical Service, the Controller and Accountant General Department, because if we're talking about public sector jobs, there is that. But the other, there's a bit of a nuance because it's not controller doesn't pay everybody, right? Because there are some people that don't get paid by controller that are still public service. So like if you think of the state-owned enterprises, right? Cocoa Board, GMPC, those ones, they all manage their own payrolls. But we also have the State's Interest and Governance Authority, the SIGA, also reports on the state-owned enterprises, and they have employment data that they have data on the number of people that are working in those state enterprises. So we have that data. Ultimately, if you have these jobs, right, and when the vice president describes it, he's talking about the more formal sector jobs, right, the public-private ones. When you look at that data, if those jobs are there, it should also be reflected in the tax-paying population, right? You should be seeing the reflection in the active tax-paying population, because if these jobs are trackable, then there should be a reflection in tax-paying. So we looked at tax GRA data as well. And then SNET. So because the vice president made reference to SNET, right? He said we're using SNET data. So again, we also look at SNET data and talk about, okay, is that telling us that story? And I think in all of this, one of the most important things that
so Alfred, is this?
Yes, those are my slides.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So it's important. Again, this is one of the inconsistencies I wanted to point out. So this is from the government's performance tracker that was recently launched. Is here. It says they have, as of between 2017 and 2022, they had created about 2.1 million jobs, right? But look at the breakdown. In the public sector, they say 1.8 million. And then the private sector, based on SNET, there's only 267,000. But now we are hearing about 1.4 million in the private sector, 1.2 million in the public sector. So these jobs, again, there's these inconsistencies in the data, right? In their own data that they've been presenting to the public. I wanted to, first of all, define the job. So I picked the definition from the performance tracker because I think it's important. So they're talking about the more sustainable jobs that meet the tenets of decent work, ensuring that they have pensions, they have the rights at work in line with the mandate of the ministry, right? So they're talking about the more formalized job, not, so that's why even at some point when these numbers started popping up, they said, "Oh, we have even excluded jobs from planting for food and jobs," because obviously those agricultural, more like informal jobs, right? So those are not included. So one of the things that, like I said, if we had a consistent source of labor market data, which is like looking at labor force survey, we would be able to be doing this even seamlessly. But regardless, in 2015, this was the first time that Ghana actually did a labor force survey. That was in 2015. At that time, the total number of employed people was estimated as about 9.3 million. This is regardless of the type of job, whether formal or informal, right? And then if you fast forward, we didn't really have much going on until about 2022, when the Stat Service started doing this annual household income and employment survey. And that's the source of the data that people have been talking about these days. Yeah. As of 2022, and I should say that a lot of my references up to 2022, because the breakdown that we got from the vice president, it was up to 2022. It was just recently they started adding some other things like 2.6 million. Before it was about 2.1 million, and then they went to 2.3 million. So a lot of the reference that I'll make is up to 2022. But when you look at between 2015 and 2022, the total number of employed people, the growth in that is just about 1.5 million, 1.4 million, right? That is regardless of the level of formality in the job, all jobs. So it could a lot of the Ghanaian labor market is dominated by people that are self-employed without employees, right? A lot of them in the more informal sector. So I asked myself, if you've created these jobs, right, we should see a change in the structure of the labor market, because 2.3 million or 2.6 million, right? The total number of people that are working at any point it's a little over 11 million. So if you have created 2.6 million jobs, it should change the structure of the labor market quite a bit. Yeah. So but actually, when you look at 2017 from the GLSS and you look at 2023 from the AHIS, which is the Annual Household Income and Employment Survey, you actually see the percentage distribution in people that are in wage employment. Wage employment will be the more formal sector jobs, right? People that are in wage employment actually declines from 20.5% to 22%. So if I'm listening to myself, like if you have 2.6 million jobs, formal sector jobs, this should not be happening, right? But in fact, what's happening actually is the people that are in self-employed actually increased. The more informal sector jobs increased. So that number didn't really add up. Then also again at the AHIS, one of the questions that he asked people is what sector they are working. Okay. So when you look at it, this is as of 2022. The public service, the total number of people that are working there is about 720,000. Here's a case we are hearing that there's 1.4 million or 1.2 million people working in the public sector or job created within that sector. What we need to prove is we need to first of all prove that 1.4 million, right, or 1.2 if we use the minimum. Let's do 1.2. We need to prove that first, and then we have to think about which people also what about the number of people that were working before 2017, right? Before the government took power in 2017. So if you add that to the 1.2 million, we are looking at like about 2 million public sector jobs that we need to prove, right? But the data is telling that as of 2022, there's only 700,000 people that are working in the public sector. That's a lot of inflation of the number. So the number doesn't add up. Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah. And then you look at private sector. So in the private sector, they're saying, oh, we have 1.2 million. Now they say 1.4 million. We can use any of them. But regardless, the total number of people that are in the formal private sector is about 940,000. So again, that is not close to that number, because then after that, once we get to that, then we'll have to now figure out, okay, what about the ones that were working prior to that? So those numbers are not adding up. Okay. Next data source is the controller staff strength. So I've made this argument multiple times, and initially some of the ruling party people, their response would be, well, controller doesn't pay everybody, and that is true. Like Ghana Armed Forces, the Ghana Police, even some of the public universities, they do their own payroll, but they get a subvention from government to manage that payroll. So controller actually, when they report on staff strength, they report on the mechanized, which is the ones that are actually paid by controller. And there's subvention, the ones that get a certain grants from government to manage their payroll, like some of the examples that I mentioned. So as of 2023, when you put those two together, the total number of people that are in the public sector at least on the controller side, and then the subvention side is 804,000. That is not close to 1.4 million, 1.2 million.
No.
So then the question is, okay, what about the state-owned enterprises? So SIGA, like I said, also reports on them. So as of 2023, it is under 100,000 people that are in all those institutions. And even this, sometimes some of it includes, because Ghana also has stakes in certain companies like Telecel, for example, right? Because it used to be 100% Ghana owned, but now we own a certain percentage of it.
Yeah.
You think of other ones like GMPC, all those ones, they are the SIGA report on the employment information. And as of 2023, 93,000, under 100,000. So even if you take that 100,000, right, go and add it to the 800,000 under controller, you have covered all the possible public sector jobs.
Yeah.
And it's 900,000.
900 something, yeah.
So that is not close to 1.2 million. I keep stressing that point that it is 1.2 million plus, because we have to think about the people that were working in the public sector before the government came to power in 2017.
Okay.
Then the other point is tax. So if you're creating these jobs,
okay, so Alfred, the figures they are mentioning are jobs added.
Jobs added. That's what they are saying.
And
they're not talking about because that's what you should be focusing on.
But they're not talking about the overall number of jobs.
Because even the other thing is, even if you replace a job, that's not really a job you've created. The job already existed, right? So say, for example, some people retired and you hire new people to replace them. Those are not new jobs. So but they are talking about the jobs that they have created, like basically new jobs that they have added to the economy.
And these jobs are miles apart from the actual numbers of people who are employed currently.
Who are employed in these sectors that we are looking at, exactly.
Wow.
We can also look at tax data, right? Because again, if you have these jobs, they should be reflecting. As of 2023, total number of active taxpayers. This is personal income tax, right? Total number of people there was 2.6 million total. Now, this is not, so this don't get confused and say, oh, well, there's 2.6 million, so Baumia is covered, but it's not, because this 2.6 million is cumulative. This is, it could have been people working from Nkrumah's time to now, right?
Yeah.
In there. So this is cumulatively 2.6 million people are considered active taxpayers by the GRA. Now, a simple exercise that you could do is you could look at 2019. Now, I don't have a lot of data going back to 2018 and the rest, because again, you know how scarce sometimes data can get. So we don't, otherwise it would have been a very easy thing to say, okay, what is the tax-paying population in 2016 compared to now? It's hard to find data like that. But one of the simple tests that we could do is look at 2019. There was 1.9 million, right? And then look at 2.6, 2023, there's 2.6 million. So what is the difference in taxpayers that have been added? Then compare it to Baumia's numbers and say how many jobs were created within that time frame. You see that you can't account for a lot of those jobs. Right? Okay. When I did the analysis, I could only account for about 40% of the job
number
in that time period. And this analysis is even generous, because we are assuming that any new taxpayer that has been added, active taxpayer that has been added, is not as a result of compliance efforts by the GRA, but because they have
employment
new jobs. Right? This is a very generous analysis that we're doing. Again, you can look at, one of the things that I did was, okay, this is the numbers, but also look at the amounts themselves. So I took the tax data, again, personal income tax data, adjusted it for inflation, because we want to make sure that it is, different, because, 2022, for example, Ghana had a lot of inflation. So, but when I adjust it for inflation, you see that it's from 2019, it's very flat. It's not changing that much. It's only in 2022 that was a dip, obviously because of COVID, right? There was an impact there. There was a slight impact there, but generally very flat. So you see that the numbers are not adding up.
Okay.
Final slide is on SNIT, because again, the vice president says they're using SNIT data for at least the private formal sector jobs. But the thing is that, and I think the lawyer Edudzi was talking about it a little bit. You cannot use SNIT registration as a good measure of jobs created, because some people could go register on SNIT and not actually contribute to it, right? So the better indicator to use is how many people are actually actively contributing to SNIT. And here, even the definition of active contributor is very loose.
Okay.
A SNIT definition, if in the previous 12 months there was at least one contribution, right? Period of 12 months, if there was at least one contribution, you are considered an active contributor. So when you look at 2016, right, there were about 1.35 million active contributors. By 2023, it's about 1.9 million. So within that time frame, there's under 600,000 active contributors growth, right? But here's the case: we are saying that we have 2 million jobs.
Yeah.
So these people that have been employed, or these jobs that have been created by government, is it the argument that the vast majority of them are not contributing?
Yeah.
Right. That number doesn't add up. So you cannot just take you cannot just take registration. Everybody can go, people can go and register on SNIT. And SNIT also sometimes have registration drives, right, to get people to register. It doesn't mean that they're actually going to they are jobs that are sustainable, that they are going to start creating what's called paying SNIT and all of that. So on the basis of all these different sources, again, this is everybody can check. This is publicly available data. You can go on SNIT, you can check SNIT, and some of these data is even from the government's performance tracker, because SNIT's annual report is up to 2021. So you now look at the tracker on the performance tracker. They also have the active contributor data there. So on the basis of all these different data sources, you cannot. It is not telling that 2-point-something million jobs that have been created. So then the question is, where are those now? Where that data?
Where are those jobs?
Right? And we come back to that.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks a lot, Alfred. Let me give Lawyer Edudzi the chance to comment on these, and then we'll conclude very soon. We are running out of time. Yeah.
So I think that I want to appreciate Alfred Appiah for the detailed work. This is how democracy is supposed to go, where the numbers we put out, either they are fast-checked or there's further interrogation of the data. You see, when you create a false sense of job creation, the multitude of young people on the street will expose you. Because you see, you are invariably telling them they have job when they don't. Do you get it?
Yeah.
And you see, the worst thing that can happen to any individual is to begin to believe his own lies. We can't have a democracy built on lies. And we need to appreciate that there are people who are professionals. Look at the extensive research done by Alfred, going to the very source. Because you see, you don't create jobs in the sky. Jobs are not like planetary stars. Jobs must have evidence on the ground. It is people you are dealing with. You cannot be telling me that, oh, Edudzi, you have a job, when I don't.
Yeah.
Agana, can you imagine a situation where you are in the studio telling me that, Edudzi, you have eaten so much today, and I'm telling you I'm hungry?
Not easy, yeah.
Meanwhile, you are insisting that, no, I have eaten. Yeah. That is where this government, and that is why you notice that at the point government claims that they have created jobs, unemployment had risen from 8% in 2016 to almost 15%. How are you doing this?
Maybe population growth.
No, the population growth is evidenced by what the population and housing census reveals. So the job growth must not grow beyond the rate of growth of the population. Again, you look at the active population of young people and persons within the working brackets. Remember that whilst population is growing, others are going on retirement. So there's filling. So what exactly are the numbers? Barefaced lies. And you see, the only reason why government of Ghana is having to engage in these voodoo numbers is simply because they think that they can hoodwink. Because you see, the Afrobarometer report consistently has shown, and in fact the latest one shows, that 82% Ghanaians believe that the nation is moving in the wrong
direction. Yes. Yeah.
That is a bad verdict on this government. But since you indicated that time is running out, I want to say that John Mahama and the NDC, we have stated clearly that we believe, and in Boston, you don't sleep.
Yeah. Okay, so, I mean, I was actually going to come to that, right? Baumia made comments about the 24-hour economy very recently. I don't know if we have the video, but he literally said that you will stop NDC folks in their tracks if we ask them to explain the 24-hour economy. So since you are here, do us the honors.
I have always maintained in the conversation on 24 Hour, I tell people, go and read about Bamia's story. Bamia says, whilst growing up in London, in his university education, he used to do 8 hours as a taxi driver. Then you go and do another 8 hours as a cleaner, and do another 8 hours in a shop. So Bamia's own life provides a better explanation of the 24 hour. Because one man, he's able to do 8 hours as a taxi driver the same day, another 8 hours to run as a cleaner, either in a hospital, a shop, or an apartment or something, and do another 8 hours as a waitress or waiter or whatever in another shop. So clearly, his own life provides a better explanation for the two. But you know why the NPP decided to launch this attack on the 24-hour economy policy? They had a consultant, and the consultant told them that, listen, you cannot say when the General Secretary of TUC, then General Secretary, Comrade Yaba, Dr. Yaba, say that the 24-hour economy policy program is a game changer.
Okay.
You cannot tell me that Yaba doesn't know. This TUC, labor, if he doesn't know, granted that me, Edudzi, I don't know. What about Yaba?
Mm-hmm.
The Federation of Labor have equally indicated that the 24-hour economy policy program is a solid one, and we should all give it.
Okay. Yeah.
So key independent people have all given the indication. The only reason is that the NPP had a consultant who advised that they should do as much as possible to mock the policy. But you see, I've always maintained young people on the streets, young people in various homes watching us tonight, that young man is also looking for a decent job that can give him something. John Mohammed's promise to you, that young man, is that we can do it here.
Okay.
And that the situation where after 5 p.m. or we all retire to bed must come to an end.
Okay.
So it is doable.
Yeah. All right.
There's another issue that maybe if you give me 30 seconds.
All right. Okay. Yeah, we can do that.
In Ghana here, we have a unique issue. That unique problem is that the owners of property are typically the male in our family homes, our fathers. But you know that our mothers play key role in local economic development. Mm-hmm. They are the ones selling and doing all kinds of, businesses all over the various markets. You see more women than men. But because they are not the owners of property, providing collateral, even to access capital, becomes a problem. And that is why we have brought a unique Women Development Bank to meet that critical. And we are confident that over 1 million women will have the opportunity to access that. Look, if you want 24-hour economy, even by 8 p.m., most fuel stations will close. Why? Okay. Security concerns. Security concerns. So if we can create even 25,000 jobs within the security sector, police and others, that alone will provide the needed security for most of these jobs to ensure that we actualize the 24-hour economy policy program. So this, for me, is just a brief of the thing that we intend to do in the sector of job creation, more jobs, more jobs. Finally.
Yeah, okay.
The issue of 1 million coders program. You see, sometimes I believe that people must demonstrate humility. In 2020 manifesto, the People's Manifesto that I have a copy, Jobs and Prosperity for All. The NPP went into the 2020 NDC manifesto and picked the issue of 1 million coders program. What you do is to say, yes, we have taken this policy from you. It's laudable. There's nothing wrong with it. Now, Bamia is creating an impression that he's the one promising to create 1 million coders program. It is an initiative that you picked from the NDC manifesto, and you should do that with humility.
Okay. All right. Let me play the video you sent me, and then
Please go ahead.
Fan came. I was given 50,000. Oh, my quota was 50,000 as a regional second vice. Then, who doubles as a parliamentary candidate for Sanargu? I had another 50,000 cedis, making it 100,000. Then the constituency were given, is it 200,000 or so? I can't remember. So I called for, and MCE was giving 30,000. I can't remember. Then Chama was giving 20,000, and I think the other executives is 10,000, or was it Chama was giving 10,000? But I can't remember. So I called them to a meeting. I called the constituency executive to a meeting, and I told them that, fine, for me, I am going to add all the 100,000 that I am entitled to the constituency. Listen, oh, I am handing over all my 100,000 to the constituency money. I didn't ask any executive to add his money to what I was going to give to the women. I handed over the forms and everybody to the team, and we went round and we did the disbursement. The next step was, I have taken police station executives' money and I want to spend that money. My 100,000, not even one that I filled for somebody in my house, not even one that I filled for a member of my team. Secretary, Karamba, Polo, Chairman, they were in charge. After that, their form and everything was not given to me. They sent it straight to regional secretary, and regional secretary sent it to Accra directly. So my brothers, where did I spend the money? When I even added everything, not even a peso I took from it. What kind of propaganda is this? What kind of propaganda is this? So please, let's learn to tell each other the truth. You may not like me, but when you are talking about the things I have done, talk about the truth. If you respond with lies, I will come back and counter, because I will not keep quiet. It is only a dead body that you can lie on. I will not keep quiet to say that, oh, a leader there, you don't have to talk. A leader there, you don't have to talk. A leader, you don't have to talk, and somebody is always destroying you. I will talk. I will talk and I explain to the level-headed people on the platform.
All right. So, we can trace some of the missing COVID money, but the jobs cannot be traced. Lawyer Edudzi.
So, Agana,
Yes.
this one, just for the record, you've heard her from the horse's own mouth. In fact, as lawyers, we have a saying that nothing convicts a man faster than his own words.
Okay.
And this is NPP second vice saying in 2020 how COVID monies were given to them. She alone had 100,000 as parliamentary candidate. So 275 parliamentary candidate times 100,000.
Okay.
Look at the other monies to regional executives. Look at the other funds to constituency executives. Why would Akufo-Addo and Bawumia do this to us? What wrong have we done?
All right, you've definitely made a case for the NDC's vision to reset.
Sad.
Yeah, you've made a case for the NDC's vision to reset Ghana. Hopefully, we can get the other side to come and make their case on this platform as well, and our viewers will be the judge at the end of the day. Alfred, thanks for coming. You you kind of gave us the basis to judge whether what Bamia is saying in terms of job creation is the reality on the ground or not. And thanks for coming. Edudzi, thanks a lot for coming. There's still a lot of conversation to be had about this. And hopefully you can come back again and we'll have a conversation.
I'm on standby.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right.